Hey, food friends, and welcome to the Food Founders Podcast. Whether you're looking to get on your very first store shelf or you're looking to grow your national or even international food brand, this podcast is going to teach you what it really takes to launch, grow, and scale a packaged food brand. Hear the food founder journeys of brands growing in their industry so you can fast track your food business success. I'm your host, Ainsley, and this is the Food Founders Podcast. Hey, food friends. Welcome to the Food Founders Podcast. Today, I am here with Matt LaRochelle from Matt and Steve's. Matt, welcome to the Food Founders Podcast.
Well, this is great. Thanks for having me.
I am really excited to have you on here and just to hear the story of how you guys got to where you are, and just share what the journey has been like. So maybe for anyone who doesn't know, Matt and Steve's, can you kick it off by just letting us know what exactly you guys sell and who do you try to serve with your products?
Sure. Well, it started really kind of organically. Me and Steve were bartending. We were living in a 600 square foot apartment, and Steve came home one day. We were roommates. He came over and says, "Matty, I want to put something funky in Caesar." He saw all the Caesar drinks that were going over the wood every day, and he goes, "We can do something better than a celery stick." And it was more like an idea of kind of like, we could do this. We could do something better. So I said, "What do you want to put in it?" He said, "I want to put a bean in it." I said, "Well, if we're going to put a bean in it, we're going to pickle it and make it spicy." He says, "Fine. You know how to pickle anything?" I said, "I don't know how to pickle anything. But I'll tell you what, my mom knows how to pickle stuff. So let's give her a shout." So I called her and, I'll say exactly what I said. I said, "Mom, how do you pickle?" And she's like, "Well, write this down." So me and Steve wrote this down. Young guys, that's what you do. You call your mom when you don't know what you're doing in the kitchen. And we wrote it down. And we said, okay, this doesn't look overly complicated. I used to watch them do it. I'm French Canadian. So my parents used to pick the garden and pickle things every fall. It didn't seem that complicated. So I was like, "Steve, we can do this. We got this." So we went out to the grocery store and, found this specialty bean, and we coined it the extreme bean. And we brought it back to the apartment, and it was a KY flat bean, and we loved it because it grew longer and it could stick out of a Caesar, essentially. Later, we found out that it was sweeter, it was crunchier, so it really worked. It was kind of happenstance that we found this bean. So as we brought it home and we started pickling it, and it's not as easy as it sounds. Things blew up. You couldn't bring a girl over our apartment when we were young because it smelled like vinegar and like rotting beans in the corner. Like, it was just an awful experience for anybody. But the stuff that did work out, we tried it on ourselves first, and it tastes absolutely fantastic. And so we decided to go to every food service trade show, essentially from Halifax to Victoria, and that's where the journey really started. And essentially how we wanted people to do was take the celery stick out and put this extreme bean in it. And really, it was a simple message. We said, consistent cost, premium product, no prep, no waste, essentially. And it kind of got on some traction, and the product was really good, and then it started to grow. And so it grew from one product, one idea, the extreme bean. And so that's how we started. But it was around a Caesar. We used it for the sampling opportunity. Now people snack on it and use it for all kinds of different ways. And, we have line extensions. We have the extreme bean, the asparagus, the extreme pickle spear. Yeah. And recently we launched the RTD Caesar. So, but it all started kind of from that one idea of just trying to make the Caesar better.
That's typically how things kind of start. It's like, how do I make this better? This is boring. Like Canadians, we love Caesars up here.
Oh, we sure do.
Yeah. And so it's like, why are we just having it with boring celery? And when you look at the Caesar category now and you just look how people enjoy them, I would almost say you guys are almost like the grandfather to help making them like less boring and spicing them up and adding some real flavor to them.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were trying to do. And we went on this journey of Caesar, and it was like, okay, first we put the bean in, and we said, okay, that's way better. And then we looked at the Caesar rim, and we're like, well, that's just salt and celery seed. I was like, we could do that better. So we made a gourmet Caesar rim, nice and chunky on the glass, tastes fantastic. Then we started putting the brine in the Caesar, like a little bit extreme bean brine. And, but this is all through all these shows, these thousands of Canadians that we've been talking to over the years, and said, this is really good. This is not. And then we kind of ran out of things to do. So we said, well, let's just make the Caesar. So then we made the Caesar, and we launched it with the LCBO this spring. And it was an interesting, because that's diversion from what we were doing, right? We were a pickling company, and we knew that really well at that time. And we jumped into this RTD beverage category, but I think that's going well so far.
Yeah, and it does make sense. It's like, even though it's a line extension that's not in the pickling vein, it's like that is the end product of how people are using your product. And I was sharing this with you before we hit record, in terms of like, when I just taste the pickle on its own, it just makes you want a Caesar.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. Like, because I munch on pickles all the time, and I do not have that same visceral reaction any other time except for your guys' product.
Yeah, and I think that's really over 20 years of traveling Canada, and our products are associated with Caesars. That is something that we've been building. And it's not really what we intended to be, this Caesar company, because now we have essentially like we sell a ton of beans, and if everybody put a bean in a Caesar, we'd be a nation of alcoholics, right. So now people are snacking on them. They're using them for all kinds of different ways and applications. But that's where it all started, was in a beverage.
So you went to all these trade shows, coast to coast, all these food service trade shows. Was food service where you initially launched and where you really wanted to grow the company from the beginning?
Well, it was where we were initially launched, is because that's what we knew, right? We were bartending, we were in the restaurant business for many years, me and Steve. So it's kind of what we knew. We had connections there. We thought this was an amazing application for it. But the growth of the company really started once we hit retail. That was when things really started to take off. Food service is a beautiful channel, and it's very reliable, but the volume is at retail.
What was that learning curve kind of like for you guys, going from food service to retail? What did you guys have to kind of rethink with that transition?
A lot, right? It's very different. First of all, we brought a different pack size in, because our food service pack size was just too big. So we had to reformulate and figure that out. But the other thing was, retail and food service just behave totally different. If you have demand on the food service side, like a bar or restaurant, wants your product, you can pretty much get it into most of your distributors with relatively ease. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying, comparative to, but retail is different. You don't have that point of contact where a consumer can just walk into a grocery store and say, hey, by the way, just list this because I want it. Where you kind of get that at food service. So you need to go to the category managers and the buyers. And the bigger the prize, the more, you have to invest in that. And that was a real steep learning curve for me and Steve. It's we got to outlay, all this cash to get this shelf space. Like, this seems really foreign to us. So you have to get your head around that. And once you do, you really understand that, how it all works. But that was a little bit of a learning curve, saying like, really? Like, wow. And when you're starting out as a company, cash is king. And, putting all that out for an unknown was something that we had to learn to do and to be okay with it.
What gave you guys the confidence to want to go forward with that? Because some people might be like, hey, we're doing well in food service. Let's just continue to grow this way versus trying to go retail. A lot of people never make that jump. Like, you guys clearly wanted the growth, and you saw that. But I don't know, like, what made you guys decide, like, yes, we see this big vision that we know that Canadians need this in their homes as well. What, other than like just seeing the pure growth, and maybe that is just the pure growth, like, what gave you guys the like, okay, it's worth this investment, let's do it?
Well, it was a little bit the growth, but the growth was unseen yet. So we thought that we could do really well at retail, but we didn't know, right? It was hindsight's 2020, but we didn't have any hindsight. So it was really a risky proposition for us to do this. But I remember talking to, one of my friends, but he was an older gentleman, and he's gone through it again. And I remember having a beer with him, and I was telling him this astronomical money that, I thought at the time was astronomical. And I was like, scared out of my pants to lay this out. And he just simply said, he was like, it's all about ROI. He's like, it doesn't matter how much money you put out, as long as at some point you get it back. And you have to define what that timeline is, but do the math and try to figure it out, make your assumptions and do the math the best that you can and what you can live with, and then go in and either they'll say yes or they'll say no. Good news for us, he said yes, it worked out. But it was more of an analytical approach than an emotional approach. And I think anytime that, you are putting your own, that kind of money or anything, out before you kind of can see it coming back, gets emotional. And he helped me just take the emotion out of it.
Numbers will always make decisions so much easier. I always think it's like, let's just run the numbers and then we can kind of see. And there's guesstimating in parts of that because you're not sure yet, but you're right. It helps take the emotion out of it. And you're like, okay, well, the data says this. Great.
Right.
Let's go.
Exactly. And sometimes it's wrong, but that, you do your best that you can. You take all the data points that you have, you put it in, and then at the end of the day, it's up to you to make the decision whether you go forward on that information or you don't. But something's another, I had a CFO and he told me, and we were talking about something financial, and he said, even when you don't make a decision, you're making a decision. You're constantly making a decision not to make a decision. And, now he told me this must be 6 years ago now. And it's always resonated with me because it's true. Like if you procrastinate or push it to the side because you tell yourself you have just made a conscious decision to push this aside. And that might be the perfectly thing to do, but it just brought closure to a lot of these things. It's like, okay, I am actively going to put this on the shelf for 3 months, but at 3 months, I need to revisit that, or I'm making the decision right now. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting way to frame you as a leader of a company, even when you don't make a decision, you're making a decision.
Yeah, that's really powerful. That gets you to be more active in anything that you're doing or not doing. But yeah, I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys have learned a lot. You've been doing this for 20 years?
Yeah. I hate to say it, but yeah. It's been a long time. Yeah. Well, we first had the idea about 20 years ago. So I quit my full-time job in 2010 to focus on this. So, when I call my mother up, it's probably getting, maybe not quite there, but yeah, it's close to that for sure.
That's incredible. That focus, I think, is really key. What do you think that now as a business leader, this far into it, that you wish you knew at the beginning, early stages with it?
I think in the early stages, you just have a lot of doubt. And it's not just with yourself. It's like, do I have the right product? Do I have the right approach? Am I the right person? Is this the right path for me? Is this the right path for the people I employ? And I think over time, it's not, you wake up one morning and you don't have that doubt anymore. But I think over time, there's an erosion of your doubt in a good way. And it comes after making a lot of good decisions. You're going to make some bad ones. That's just how life goes. But that doubt slowly fades away. And I wish I would have known that years ago when you have this doubt and you say, okay, is this the right thing? It does go away. And you get a little, stronger in your footing, and you can make decisions faster. You don't go back on yourself. Like, was that the right one? Not the wrong one. It's done. It's made. But that takes a lot of years. But I wish I would have known that. It's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the doubt. The doubt will go away as long as you continue to make some good decisions.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful to recognize. Just it will go away eventually. And I think that's also part of you guys have continued to go really deep on the line that you have. And stick true. You guys know the pickling business, the Caesar business, that's what you guys know so well. And when you start to just know that all, then decisions can come a lot easier because you've figured out a lot of these pieces already.
Yeah. And I think the pickling business is one thing, but I think really understanding your brand and defining. So if what I would have liked to do maybe a tad bit earlier than we actually got to it was really define our culture and our core values and our brand, and what are our brand pillars? Because I think we did it in just the nick of time, because as you grow, you get a lot of pressures. There's a lot of pressures. I guess there's always pressures, but as you grow, you get a lot of pressures to do other things, to take this diversion or take this new path because that's where the revenue is, or, that just seems like easy money over there, or easy business, or that's where one of your, top executives are pushing you to go try. And it's really helped us all when we defined, which we did about 5 years ago, really sharply defined our brand and what our brand is. And then also sharply define our core culture and who we are. And when things fall outside of those bumpers, it's an easy no, right? And when they fall inside those bumpers, it's kind of an easy yes. Like, let's explore that. So yeah, that was an important piece to growth, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Having those parameters allow you to just make decisions a lot easier and know that you're making them from like the data also like of what your brand is. That is a piece of data as well. Our brand will be this, our brand won't be that. That's so important, especially as you grow, to stay true to who you are, because that's how people perceive you, right? So that's, you built up all this equity. It's important to continuously stay true to that.
100%.
Talk to me about something that you guys are working on right now that's taking you into next stage of growth, whatever that may be for you, or just a new learning piece that you guys are focusing on in the business.
Yeah, next stage. So right now we're working a lot in the U.S. We're bringing on some U.S. clients. I think we're in 6 of the top 10 retailers, which is really exciting. But we don't really know the U.S. landscape, and we're learning as we go. It's different. There's some things that behave extremely different than the Canadian retail scape. And so we're walking slowly. That we have lots of things to do here in Canada, which is a really new thing that we just launched in May. I think we might have already touched on it, but our Caesar in a can, this guy right here, we've spent 2 years developing this. And one of our major objectives was we just can't launch anything. We have everyone. So our brand pillars are tasty, topical, social, and fun. And the tasty is a synonym for, quality. Like everything we launch has to be the best. We feel, obviously a little biased probably, but we feel is the best on the market. So it took us 2 years to come up with this formulation. We've gone through hundreds. And the reason why it's taken so long, because we just weren't. We just felt that we were not the best, and we kept on pushing it off, holding it off. And in the fall of last year, around September, November, we got all of our data back that said we were better. We were the best on the market. Now, again, biased, right? But this was a blind sampling, and we did it above board. But I also personally felt that it was there, and then we launched. So that's a very exciting thing. It brings us into a whole new channel of business as a beverage outside the pickle industry. It's not working with the likes of Loblaws or Walmarts or those kind of things, but it's working with the LCBO, which is a different challenge. But yeah, we are tackling that with vigor, and we're really, really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you guys continue to grow that. And just, when I think about your brand pillars, and when I think about just the equity that you have around that whole, around the whole category, really, I can see them all playing so nicely together, which is exciting.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Any advice for anyone, who's at those beginning phases, who might even be thinking, shoot, should I even go and do this? Any advice that you might have for them?
Yeah, I do. It might be slightly risky, but just try it and figure it out later. I can't even count how many times we tried something, it actually worked, and then we had to reverse engineer it back to going, okay, now how do we figure this out? Like, oh my God, right? I remember, moving pickle production into Steve's parents' farmhouse because we got an order that we couldn't fill. I remember, being up at 2 a.m. in the morning and trying to fill up these bean barrels, hot boiling pickle. I'm the only one in the plant, spilled it all over me, go home 6 o'clock in the morning, like red, full, like, but we got the order out, we did it, we tried it, and it was a thing. That one worked pretty good in the end, not great, but we tried it and we learned a lot from it. So my advice to people that are on the edge, go in low cost, but try it. Just figure it out. And knowledge is almost, or probably more so, as important than cash. So everybody has cash problems at the beginning, but that's not their major problem. Their problem is knowledge problem, right? So I only know this because I look back at us at, 26 years old, and although we didn't have any money, we didn't have any knowledge. We didn't know this business. We didn't know how to do this. We didn't know how to pickle. We didn't know. And once we gained the knowledge, it was easier to get the cash. So that is the thing. So even when you try something and it doesn't work out the way you want it, or it does, that's the ideal situation, you're accumulating knowledge. And knowledge in any business is is king, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think that is really, really sage advice for everyone. Okay. Where can people find you? I know we can find your new Caesar product in the LCBO. People who have been listening to this who want to try the product, where can they find you?
The LCBO for the RTD, but if you're looking for the extreme bean, the asparagus, or the pickle spears, you can find them in any major groceries, Loblaws, Walmart, Metro, Sobeys, from coast to coast. So just go down your pickle aisle and these should be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing the journey of Matt and Steve's.
Thanks, Ainsley. Had a blast.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Food Founders Podcast is brought to you by the Fab Growth Academy, the online hub for driven food and beverage business owners that want to get on more shelves, get into more homes, and really grow their food business. Inside the Fab Growth Academy, FAB standing for food and beverage, you'll have unlimited access to tools, resources, and training from myself and my food friends. So if you know you have a great product, let's work on building the business side of things so that more people can enjoy it and you can make the impact I know you want to make with your business. The Fab Growth Academy is now open. So hop on over to growmyfoodbrand.com to join me and your fellow food founders inside the Fab Growth Academy. I cannot wait to see you in there and help you grow your business.